I think that ICP is in a prime position for this bull run. And even though nothing I say is financial advice and nothing I say is a guarantee, why do I think so? It's not only just because I could very well see ICP go into the price of $500. However, another reason is because I like what the internet computer is focused on. And I like the narrative here because, as we all know, moving forward, people love AI. They even love AI as of right now, but I think it could be so massive. And I like this direction when it comes to the internet computer. Let me explain why. When we take a look at back in the 11th of May, so not too long ago, basically a couple of days ago, right? But even besides that, if we take a look at this post by Dfinity, they say that today marks 4 years of the internet computer, realizing the world computer vision. Again, this was on May 11th. However, it says that in the last 12 months from this post, right? It says that on-chain AI and the self-writing internet, not to mention chain focus, native integration with Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's very amazing. We also take a look at second highest growth in new full-time developers in all of Web3. That's very impressive right there. If you take a look at ICP, it's by no means the biggest projects out there. You know what I mean? Or should I say not even amongst like what people really consider the premier, top 5 or top 10 projects. People don't really consider that. But then we see something like that. That's very impressive. Again, second highest growth in new full-time developers in all of Web3. That's a big thumbs up for me. Not to mention, we take a look at another point. It says builder momentum, ICP Ninja has streamlined development and deployment, 4,300 GitHub repos opened. Not to mention as well, last but not least, it says that global impact, 1,200 hub meetups, partnerships from ETH AI Center to UNDP. Now, UNDP, I think it stands for United Nations Development Program, if I'm not mistaken. But even besides that, this is all very fantastic stuff right here. And I do love the internet computers, focus on AI because especially when I was first getting into ICP, the big narrative when it comes to the internet computer was being focused on decentralizing the internet. And I think that was a pretty good angle, but, it's kind of the wrong angle for this time around, in my opinion, because I don't think anyone is searching for projects, at least generally speaking, from what I've noticed. I don't think they're coming in and saying, oh yeah, you know what we're going to look for? A project that's trying to decentralize the internet. No one's really caring about that type of stuff, right? It doesn't mean that the internet computer really isn't trying to do that, but then people don't really look for stuff like that. So what I do like about the internet computer was, their kind of shift, I felt like not too long ago, towards decentralized AI, towards having this focus on AI, I think is a genius move because we've seen historically, right? Even though many projects out there had a pretty big pullback, and then now a lot of them are having a pretty decent recovery. Even besides that, we saw many of the projects that have a very amazing run. A lot of them are focused on AI. And I think the internet computer did the right move by doing that. It shows that they can pivot, right? Because other projects out there, they're kind of stuck. They don't really care. They're just kind of lazy, I feel like. But this one is not. The internet computer, they're willing to shift their focus. They're like, you know what? Let's have this heavy emphasis towards decentralized AI. It's a good thing. Not to mention, if we take a look at the AI market, by 2030, it's expected to be worth nearly $2 trillion in value according to Grandview Research. So that's very massive right there, bigger than a lot of countries' GDP. So that's very wonderful. And also, I would like to mention that when it comes to the internet computer, I feel like, again, it's in a prime position because once the hype for AI really kicks in a massive way, and maybe even in a more dynamic way, right? Because we saw how amazing those AI projects did not too long ago. When the altcoin season wasn't really there yet, people were just really excited that, Bitcoin reached around $100,000. They really liked that. But then we haven't seen that fully fifth gear type of altcoin season like back in 2021. I don't think we've seen that yet. So imagine if that does happen this time around, which hypothetically, I believe the altcoin season could hypothetically kick in a massive way, at least in fifth gear. When that does happen, I feel like all the hype that we saw when it comes to AI back then could very well just be amplified in a much more fantastic way, especially Bitcoin, let's say, goes to $200,000 or $300,000. I do believe that this could be something so amazing. And most often than not, when people think about, AI projects, they usually think about like a BitTensor, right? Or like an AOS. They don't really think about the internet computer. But now, because of stuff like this, right, we see how the pretty much last year development when it comes to the internet computer, like the last 12 months, it has had this kind of heavy emphasis towards AI, at least from what I've noticed. So that's very good. And I do believe that this is something that people eventually are really going to notice. But it's just a matter of time, in my opinion. Not to mention as well, I like how the internet computer really isn't kind of like, showcasing how, again, they're focused on some random nonsense people don't really care about. Because people nowadays, I feel like they've kind of shifted beyond being focused on like, NFTs or something like that, and just other random markets that kind of had a lot of hype back in 2021, but haven't had that resurgence yet. But again, AI, of course, hypothetically, could maybe be a massive narrative. And I think maybe it will be, which is why I really do believe in the internet computer. Now, why is the internet computer such a good place for AI? Some people may be wondering, because in my opinion, what developers moving forward, I'm not saying right now, right? Because of course, Ethereum has a dominating presence here, but I'm just saying moving forward, like in 5-10 years down the line, would developers prefer the internet computer or Ethereum when it comes to just any project in general? I'm not even talking about AI projects. Hypothetically, I think the internet computer could be the number one pick there compared to Ethereum, because Ethereum, even currently, riddled with many issues, in my opinion. Sky-high gas fees, it's arguably not even scalable. It's like, okay, that was maybe acceptable years ago, but as of right now, not really. Now I get it, Ethereum has these layer 2s to kind of fix that type of stuff, but the internet computer doesn't really need that type of support in that way. You know what I mean? It's just kind of good straight out the box. That's the analogy I would put with the internet computer. And I don't think it is necessarily the fault of Ethereum because it launched so early. I think maybe they kind of didn't really realize how big it could hypothetically become, and also, how maybe certain issues may play out in the future. I think maybe it wasn't really thought of potentially. I'm not sure because I'm not part of the Ethereum team, but this is what I assume. But the internet computer, because it doesn't have like the first mover advantage, it was able to iron out, the mistakes. It was able to learn from others. So I think that when it comes to fundamentally speaking, I think the internet computer is better than Ethereum in my opinion. But of course, because Ethereum launched so early, it has the fans, it has the hype. But I think that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's doom and gloom for ICP, because people during a fully fledged burn, what I noticed, they usually care about the story, they care about the narrative. And even if that's not enough, the internet computer, allegedly, from what I saw online, for $1 worth of smart contract data, you can get over 200 million bytes on the internet computer, whereas on Ethereum, allegedly, you can only get around 44 bytes for the same price. That's not that good. That's a major difference right there. Also, allegedly, the average cost per instruction on the internet computer is over 40 million times less expensive than Ethereum. I'm not saying, around 40 times, not even around 400,000 times, not a million, over 40 million. That's crazy in my opinion. That's insane, really. I mean, that's such a major difference. This is how amazing the internet computer is. I get it. People like to say that, oh yeah, there's too many projects right now. There's something like the internet computer can't really thrive. Now, the way you take a look at it is this. Many of the projects that launched are random meme coins that people are going to forget about. Not to mention, many of the projects that do launch, they don't have good quality. They don't really have much traction. And just as of right now, there are so many launch pads. It's so easy for many people to launch, these random meme coins and random projects in general. Because it's so easy, it just feels like, whoa, there are so many projects. But it doesn't mean that there's that many new good projects, if that makes sense. If you think about it, there's still a very tight-knit group of projects that are actually fundamentally amazing and something that, I think could stay around for many years. So when it comes to ICP, that hasn't really changed. It's not like there's so many more dynamic projects to the point that ICP is going to get forgotten about. Having more meme coins and more random projects that do nothing doesn't mean that they're going to be focused on too much, in a sense that it's going to make ICP forgotten about. You know what I mean? People are still going to try to hypothetically find projects that are fundamentally amazing. And the ICP kind of stands in that way, It's that amazing in my opinion. Now, some people may think that, $500 is impossible. Well, the way the markets are heading as of right now I get it, there's a slight pullback, but imagine, we have to think about what could it be, near the end of this year. If let's say something like Bitcoin, even though it might have a slight pullback, let's say the general direction continues upwards, let's say again goes to 250,000, 300,000, ICP at the price of $500, I don't see why not. I get it. It's around 86x from here, and the market cap at that point would be around $266 billion, considering current circulating supply. But I don't think it's too much to ask for. Imagine if something like Bitcoin reached a market cap of around 6 trillion. Would this be too much to ask for? That's the way to take a look at it. Why can't some of that volume flow into this? You know what I mean? But of course, it's all speculation. All I can do right now is stay patient. But I do believe in the future of ICP, and $500 wouldn't surprise me whatsoever during this bull run. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's Malik the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.